Hello my friends, another very interesting and very helpful video for you if you wanna sound like real native Russian speakers. As always, I try to share with you only the important, common and interesting Russian words, phrases, verbs, expressions that only native Russian speakers use almost every day in their Russian speech, their Russian conversation. Therefore, in this video, I will share with you these kind of words, expressions and the phrases that I, my friends, and other different native Russian speakers use almost every day. Probably you will come across this kind of word that I will share with you right now in this video in different Russian movies, with in conversation with your Russian friends. And if you will watch this video till the end, you will know why you didn't know about these words before this video. If you're ready, let's get started. First word, everyone know very common Russian word like здравствуйте. Здравствуйте. It's like hello in English, you know about it. But native Russian speakers and like me, like my friends, like another native speakers very often use, instead of this Russian word здравствуйте, another word. Listen to me. Instead of this word здравствуйте, we often use word like здрасте. Здрасте. Yes. Здрасте. 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 Understand? Not like здравствуйте. Because здравствуйте is very formal word from Russian language. Здрасте is informal word. Здрасте. Здрасте. And even sometimes we use this word like здрасте a little bit differently. We can say without letter z. We can say just like здрасте, здрасте, especially when we say this word very fast, very quickly. And probably you can come across this kind of way like здрасте in a conversation with your Russian friends. But I really advise you use exactly way like здрасте, здрасте. Next, very common Russian word like что, or what in English. What we translate into Russian like что. And instead of this Russian word что, we use another Russian word like чё. Understand? Чё. Not like что. Very rude Russian word что. We use чё. For example, a very common English question like what do you want? We translate into Russian like что ты хочешь? Что ты хочешь? Native Russian speakers say this question differently. We say like «Чё ты хочешь?» «Чё ты хочешь?» Not like «Что ты хочешь?» We say «Чё ты хочешь?» «Чё ты хочешь?» «Чё ты хочешь?» Understand? More shortly. Not like «Что?» «Чё?» «Чё ты хочешь?» Or «What did you say?» We translate into Russian like «Что ты сказал?» «Что ты сказал?» We say a little bit differently. We say «Чё ты сказал?» «Чё ты сказал?» «Чё ты сказал?» «Чё ты сказал?» And this way like «чё», this word «чё» we really use almost in different and almost in every situation in our world, in our life, in different situations, in different sentences. We really very often use this word instead of the common word and formal word «что». But of course there are exceptions, because I really consider and I know that there are different sentences where please don't use instead of this word что another word чё. For example, this kind of sentence like I wanna say that you're very beautiful. We translate into Russian like я хочу сказать, что ты очень красивая. I mean, when you come across in English sentence, English word that, I mean, in middle of the sentence, that, and this word that we translate into Russian like что, exactly in this situation, in these sentences, these kind of sentences, please don't use another word чё, because it won't be correctly, it won't be right. Use exactly formal word что. Я хочу сказать, что ты очень красивая. Understand? Don't say like я хочу сказать, что ты очень... No, it's very wrong. It won't be correctly. Or another example. He wanted to tell you that you were wrong. Он хотел сказать тебе, что ты был неправ. The same situation. You see that in the middle of this sentence we see Russian or English word that. And in this situation, in this sentence, we don't use another word like чё. Use exactly Russian word что. The same situation with a very common phrase like because we translate into Russian like потому что. Use exactly this way like что, потому что. Not, we don't say like потому чё. No, it isn't correctly. We say exactly like this. Потому что. And I advise you to use this word like чё, I mean instead of the word что. Чё, yes, use exactly with your friends, with people who you know very well. And please don't use to strangers. And still one very common, very important word, Russian word that we use almost every day. Do you remember when I told you about very common phrase, very common Russian word like ничего себе? When you surprise something, we say like ничего себе. And instead of this phrase, we say more shortly ничего себе. And instead of this, all these sentences, all these phrases like ничего себе or ничего себе, or we can say wow. We say very often another word. This word sounds like ого. Very easy, very simple, just ого. By the way, if you wanna sound like also like real native Russian speakers, please watch this video because in this video I will share with you very interesting, very awesome Russian verb that you will use in your Russian conversation with your Russian friends, and I promise that it will be very good, it will be very amazing in your Russian speech. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. If I deserved, post like, and bye bye.